Zip, 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 zip.
What's up, shitbags? What was that intro?
That's
Where'd
a good
that
one.
come from?
Welcome
Oh,
back to
it's
the
awesome.
show.
Welcome back, everybody. New Dog's Old Trick, episode 12. So already 12. I mean, it's crazy. We're already into February. New year. We got 2 episodes a month. It's been going smooth, and you guys have been great as always. At the time we're recording this, it's February 1st. This is going to be the end of February's episode, so it's going to be a little delayed, but at this point, we just ended the pre-sale for the t-shirts. So we got 54 shirts that were sold for the pre-sale. You guys are awesome. Jobtown is awesome, giving us a huge deal. We're going to be able to make a nice donation. Right now, it's looking like we're going to be able to make a $300 donation to our cadets. So thank you guys so much for that. Just the first merch sale has been awesome. I know we've been getting a lot of questions as to when the shirts are going to be available. So February 1st, the order is placed today. Jobtown says it's about a month out, so maybe a little sooner or right around that time, and we'll start getting them shipped out or picked up from one of us. So thank you guys so much for that. We are ordering some extra ones, so those shirts will still be available maybe at this time. I don't know, in the future that much, but we'll have everything updated on our website in terms of like how much is left for each size and everything there, as well as some more stuff. Taylor's Tins has got a huge thing for us, so we're going to start having some tin stuff available that we're getting from them. So it's awesome. It's awesome. Really cool. I really appreciate you guys helping us out. We're hoping to be able to use any of that stuff, the money that we pull in, to do some good with that. So that's it. That's the sales pitch. That's all I got.
Wow, that was well done right there.
No, but I mean, as always, thank you to you guys. Thanks to Jeremy at Crew First. We got Taylor at Taylor's Tins. We got Jobtown Graphics. Just thank you guys, our sponsors, everybody listening, watching in. It's awesome. Can't wait. Great year ahead. I'm really excited for this guest. So I'm gonna stop running my mouth and bring in the guy that everybody actually wants to hear from. So
Yeah, no one wants to listen to us.
Welcome, BJ.
What's going on, guys? How you been?
Welcome,
Good,
brother.
good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. It's good to hear from you.
Perfect. Well, why don't you introduce yourself for the people that aren't aware of your excellence, and we'll keep going from there.
All right. My name is BJ Breecher. I'm currently career firefighter, AEMT, to Force Windsor Fire EMS. A part-time lieutenant for the city of Verona. So keeping busy in Dane County up here in south central Wisconsin. I've been involved in the fire service for 14 years. 14 years between probably more than that, actually, now that I think about it. About 14 years between volunteer work, private EMS, part-time, and now career stuff. So
awesome.
Two-time COVID survivor.
Yeah.
2 times.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, fantastic.
You're a legend.
Don't believe it. And that's all I'm going to say about that, boys.
Oh, boy, this is a different podcast all of a sudden. Now who are you voting for? Who are you voting? No, never mind.
Man. That's about as political as I'm going to get when we talk about the height flu, okay? Oops, did I just say that? I'm sorry. Anyhow, I'm happy to be here, you guys. I've been looking forward to this for a while. So.
Yeah, we're really happy to have you on there. We're really excited to get through some of our questions here and learn a lot from you and let you spread some knowledge there. So, yeah, without further ado, I mean, we'll get right into this, right into our questions. So first one that we have, you talked a little bit about how long you've been in it, but how did you end up in the fire service?
So it's kind of an interesting story, actually. I used to work in the exciting world of health insurance. And I used to work for Human Insurance, and I used to do benefits and explain benefits and things like that to people. And I just got done answering a phone call, and it went really well. And I had an opportunity to kind of put myself in queue. I could kind of take a pause from taking phone calls. And I kind of thought to myself, I'm like, that went really well. I'm pretty good at this. But if I could do anything else, what would I be doing? And I said, well, probably something in natural resources, because as you see here, I love to hunt and fish. We're in my bar, by the way. and I probably be a firefighter too, because all my friends had mentioned how much they enjoyed. I had a lot of friends that were involved in the fire service. My dad was a volunteer for a little while too, but I thought that would, probably what I would be doing if I wasn't doing this. Well, lo and behold, 6 months later, I get called into my boss's office, and I was let go. So with that being said, I was kind of in shock, but whatever. So I'm leaving, and my girlfriend at the time, I called her, let her know what was going on, and she's like, "What are you gonna do now?" And I said, "Well, I'm gonna go home, and I'm gonna take a day to think about things and come up with a plan." Because at that time, it wasn't like I was in my 20s or anything like that. It's a scary position to be in when you're in your early 30s and somebody hands you your walking papers. And this was really at a really rough time in the economy, where it seemed like everybody was on unemployment, nobody was hiring. You were handing out all these unemployment benefits left and right, and there was also this concern about losing it. So I was not in a fun position to be in at that time. But like I said, I was going to take a day to think about things. I woke up the next morning. I didn't take a day to think about it. I put on a pot of coffee and I jumped online. And I remember that conversation I had with myself 6 months previous. So at that time, I was living in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and I knew that Fox Valley Technical College in Appleton had a strong natural resources program and a strong fire program. So I just did the old Google search, and bang, it popped up in front of me, wildland firefighter. And I'm like, okay, merging those two things together, how weird is that? So I logged in, and the class was going on the following week. And I'm like, oh, wow, is this a sign? So I registered for the class. And at that moment, I didn't know where I was going to find the money to do it, but I was going to do it. And took the class. It was a week long, got certified as a wildland firefighter, made it a point to talk to some people, establish some relationships, and to take this weird thing a step further, the tuition of the class matched the cash out vacation time that I got from Humana to the cent. So again, this was a sign. I'm not one of those people that believes in destiny per se, but this was probably destiny for me.
Yeah.
And the weird thing too was, even going back further, my dad was speaking to a friend of the family when I was in my teens, and he was a firefighter with the city of Green Bay, and he had mentioned to my dad, they had a conversation about what I planned to do when I was done with graduation. And he goes, well, he was kind of talking about being a police officer, but he hasn't really committed to anything yet. And he goes to my dad, that kid should become a firefighter, and in one ear and out the other. And even my dad saying if he could do it all over again, he would be a firefighter. But fast forward to, from then, I got certified. I made the right connections with the right people. Had a conversation on the phone. I applied for some limited term full-time positions for the DNR. And they called me up one day and they're like, hey, listen, we've filled our full-time limited term position, but we're looking for part-time. And at the time it was really weird, because I'm like, no, I need a job now, man. I don't know how long my unemployment benefits are going to hang on. I need something. I got rent to pay. I was really sweating a lot of bullets there at the time. And funny story, I'm sitting there and I'm talking to Mike Folgert on the phone, who was the regional ranger for the area, northeastern Wisconsin, based out of Peshtigo. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, he offered me this limited term position part-time. And I'm like, it wasn't a consistent paycheck. Mm-hmm. So I was a little, it didn't seem like it was going to work for me. I had ends to meet. And I noticed in the background that there was a magazine that was being flipped. And that flipping of the magazine became more aggressive and harder and harder. When I look over, my girlfriend at the time is paging through a Sports Illustrated magazine. My girlfriend at that time is not very sports oriented. So I'm like, why is she flipping through this? And I think she was getting stressed out that I was going to say no to this job. Flipping it harder and harder. I'm like, oh, Mike, on second thought, I'll take the job. And it was like, perfect. Okay, we'll see you in 2 weeks. You need to come up and all that stuff. So I did that season. I did 4. I got called in 4 times, and that position was, hey, listen, red flag warnings, or somebody needs a day off. We need you to come in. So it was kind of cool. I'd go up to the family cottage. I'd stay there. I'd go fishing, hunt, whatever, before or after shift. I'd drive up there. And after my first shift, where I actually got on a fire, I kind of was able to kind of bring things together. I'm like, you know what, that was pretty cool. And I did a decent job. And then my exit interview, at the end of the fire season, they talked to me and they're kind of like, hey, would you ever think about coming back? I'm like, oh yeah, absolutely. And I remember going out in the apparatus bay afterwards, and thinking, hey, you know what, I could make a career out of this. And then I stopped again and I'm like, wait a minute, what if I get into structural firefighting? And my world went from like this to even bigger. And I couldn't have been more excited really for anything in my entire life. I'm like, okay, all these things that have happened, losing the job at Humana, taking this class and hanging out with these guys and those 4 shifts, and me saying yes to a job when I was about to say no, my world just became bigger and I got more excited about so many things in my life. And it was kind of a point of, what's the word I'm looking for? I just felt like my whole life was rejuvenated. And then I started making bigger plans. And at that point, still not having a full-time job, but also looking around at school opportunities, I ended up moving down to the Madison area, and was fortunate enough, and I'll say it, I got backdoored into the MATC Fire Academy, thanks to Rich Heller. Rich, I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for people like you. So I hope you're watching this. If you do, please, thank you so much. But the class was full. I was told by the program that was full and I couldn't get in. I had a meeting with Rich, and Rich not only helped me, but helped another guy, Justin, who is now a full-time firefighter in Texas. But he sat down, he talked with me, kind of picked my brain, just kind of figure out where my head was at. You know, is this something I'm just doing because, or is this something I seriously wanted to get into? After our little one-on-one meeting we had, he goes, okay, so here's the deal. Show up on the first day. And I'm like, just show up? He goes, yeah, just show up. And I'm like, okay, man. So I get in there and the room is packed. And man, I felt so out of place. I really did. And I'm like, what am I doing here? I'm here, and no disrespect to anybody. Here's this 34-year-old guy. You know, all I've done is walk around in green jeans and a yellow shirt, scratching lines. I got these guys that are volunteers at other departments where this is their career goal. And I'm sitting in the back and I'm trying to keep a low profile because I'm not supposed to be here, you know. And everything worked out. It's a funny story. After about a week, the jig was up, and myself and Justin got called into the dean of the program's office. I'm like, oh man, this is it. It's over with. I'm out of here. I'm gonna be blacklisted. I'm never gonna be invited back to this school again. And Justin and I sit down in the office, and ooh, you know, you could cut the tension in the air with a knife. And she sits down. She goes, so I understand the situation at hand here, and I want you to know this is not your fault. And I'm like, okay, where's this going? She goes, we're going to let you guys continue the program, but you're going to be held to a higher standard. And I'm like, absolutely, man. Absolutely. And it was one of those crazy moments where I'm like, again, this is supposed to happen. This crazy thing, you know, just got dropped into my lap. And here I am backdooring my way into this fire program. You know, the sky is the limit. And I met some great people. And I remember the coolest, one of the coolest moments of my life was when I walked into that apparatus bay at MATC. And I walked up to that locker and I saw the locker there, and my name was on a piece of paper with my gear. And it was real. You know, and it wasn't like somebody just wrote my name on a piece of paper and put it up there. They printed it with their letterhead, and they put my name up on there with their gear. So I was supposed to be there, and it was a crazy moment. It was one of those moments that I will never ever forget, ever.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm here. So
Oh yeah.
Stars
I
aligned there.
don't-
Stars aligned.
yeah,
That's awesome. Oh, great. I mean, that's a great story. That's awesome. I love hearing that. I mean, Brennan was kind of in, not exactly, but coming from a legacy, I love hearing everybody else's reasoning there, because when I got into it, it felt like it was only people that their dads were firemen, their grandpa, whatever. And then like you get into it and you find it's like 50-50 of people that just had some sort of awakening where they were like, yeah, this is what I want to do. And that, it has to start somewhere. It's not everybody can be a legacy. It's got to start somewhere. And that I love hearing those stories, because mine's no fun. It's, oh yeah, dad was a fireman, so I thought it'd be cool.
yeah. I never, and it's not like not like I didn't know about it. Like I mentioned, my dad was a volunteer firefighter when I was like 16, 17 years old. And well, as cool as I thought it wasn't necessarily something that I saw myself doing, but it was still cool to do. So like my dad was the driver for the tender that was for Thunder Mountain Volunteer Fire Department. And they kept the tender at my grandfather's machine shop. And basically, if I didn't have school or anything going on the next morning, if that pager went off, I jump in my dad's Bronco with him, and I drive him to where the tender was. And I drop him off, and I'd let him take off, and I'd follow behind him, and I could hang out there on scenes and see what was happening. But it really didn't draw me in like it does today as to what's going on. So it wasn't like I didn't know, but I did know, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love hearing. That's why it's our first question. We love hearing how people got into this. So.
Everyone does a different pathway. It's kind of crazy.
Yep, but we're all here. Brought us all here with matching hats and on a which they didn't plan. I jumped in the bandwagon. I was the wrong one. They didn't plan it. BJ and Brennan, they wore matching hats. It was really cute. I just couldn't be left out.
Yeah. Give the program, Bryce.
Right.
But yeah, that's awesome. So the next question that we got on is, what did you do as a new firefighter to earn the respect of your crews? So when you got full-time, or even just when you started volunteering, what was the things that stuck out to you?
Well, my situation was, in my opinion, was pretty unique. I wasn't working at the time, and I was just going to school. So at that time, I lived probably about 4 blocks away from the volunteer station where I was at. But I got into the academy, so I kind of had a game plan. I'm like, okay, so here's the deal. I go to school Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm going to make it a point that when I'm not going to class, and when I'm not in my living situation at the time, my girlfriend had kids, my girlfriend at the time, so I was being, stay-at-home dad kind of sort of at that moment, get the kids off the bus, all that good stuff. But I made it a point that when I wasn't at school and I wasn't doing that, I was down at the station. So I had station days. And I had a pretty good relationship with my chief at that time, Jay Bohan, who was the chief at Broadhead Fire. And again, Jay, if you're watching this, I owe you a lot as well. So thank you so much. But I let him know that, hey, I'm going to be down here. If anything needs to be done, I'm going to be down between this hour and that hour. I'm here. I'm studying. I'm going on calls. I'm doing all those things. So I made myself available. And what I tell a lot of the young guys, even guys that are on the volunteer side that want to work towards make this a career, is that, just like in baseball, they have the minor leagues, they have their developmental teams and stuff like that. That's the way I look at the volunteer service for those people that want to eventually become career firefighters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
You can go down there and you can work on your chops. You can work on some of these things because you're working right along with the career guys. I had the opportunity, thanks to Mavis, which we've been using for a while here in Wisconsin. But I came into the fire service right when Mavis came about. So I had the opportunity to be working side by side with guys from the city of Beloit, Janesville, and all those other departments. So I made it a point to kind of sharpen those skills while I was there working as a volunteer on my station days. Also the other thing I did is I came with a spreadsheet. I was on this call at this date, and this is what I did. I was on this call at this day, and this is what I was in charge of. Just did all those things that I would do if I was on shift. And it was also, I guess, nice for Chief because he knew I was there, so he could give me things to do. Of course, I'm just going to say it. I looked like a kiss ass to a lot of people. Don't give a shit because my career goals were very clear. I wasn't kissing anybody's ass. I was doing a job, and I had a goal. And I'm going to do those things necessary to get to where I need to be. And throwing myself into it on the volunteer side, but being professional about it was a good base for me to kind of take me to the next level. So I tell everybody, get on a volunteer fire department, start learning about what it takes to do the job. Branch out, and we're no stranger to these things, man. Take all the classes you can, and get outside of your department. Find out what everybody else is doing. I've heard it time and time again. Well, I don't want to take that class because that's for a bigger department. So why would I want to learn to do that when that's not going to happen here? Don't feed me with that bullshit, okay? Because you can go and you can learn different things from different departments, and it may not be applicable to what you're doing at your department, but, and I know people hate this, but it's more tools for the toolbox. But even more so, it gives you a perspective of what everybody's doing out there, because it's been said time and time again, firefighting is local. What we do here in Dane County is going to be different than what is done elsewhere. It's what we do in DeForest is different than what's done in Beaver Dam, which is different than what they might do in Oshkosh or Fond du Lac or Eau Claire or Fargo, North Dakota, or Chicago or Los Angeles. It's like speaking a different language, different culture, so to speak. But even if you don't find something that you can use, at least you can learn about what's going on out there. So I think I went down a rabbit hole on that, guys. I apologize.
No, I love it.
No. Yeah, perfect.
You got to commit yourself, man. If you want this to happen, you can't half-ass it. You got to throw yourself in.
Get out of your comfort zone, soak up knowledge, and
Absolutely.
get shit done.
Absolutely.
Like, winning this career field.
Yeah, and don't be a recliner pilot. That's bullshit. Day rooms are nice and all that, but no, man, get out there, figure it out, get some things done, challenge yourself, learn something every day if you can. Break a sweat, do it. Dirty fingernails, clean conscience, right? Dirty hands, clean conscience.
Yeah. Dirty fingernails. I like that. It's the BJ spin. It's the BJ spin. I like it. It's great. No, that's awesome. Next one we have there. So this is, it definitely is volunteer side as well, but a little bit more on the career because we live with these people. But what do you think brings a crew together the best?
Oh man, I think training first and foremost. There's something to be said. There's that term esprit de corps. You guys familiar with that? Mm-hmm. Bonding through, I don't want to say suffrage, but bonding through accomplishing things together, bonding through common incidents. I tell you what, nothing brings a crew together like going on a call and figuring things out. Nothing brings a crew together more like, training together, breaking a sweat and figuring things out. It is what it is. Those things and you don't have to have the boys' night out type of thing. Like, hey, C shift's going out tonight, and we're going to go have some drinks and hang out. That's cool. That's cool. Don't get me wrong. But I've been really, finding that common ground by training with each other, breaking a sweat, going through some difficult things. That opens the door to a lot of things. This is a prime example. I got switched from A shift to C shift about a year ago. And, full disclosure, I wasn't necessarily happy about it. But I did what I did. And to be, quite frank, coming into that shift with the guys I'm working with now, we've done, in my opinion, I hope they would say the same thing. We've done a pretty nice job of carving, or beginning to carve a little niche at DeForest, working on our skills and working at becoming better. And I think through that, we've had the opportunity to kind of get to know each other, learn a little bit about each other's families, our interests, things like that, what makes each other tick. And it's funny, I just got one of my partners, Caleb Carr, just sent me a video. He was at home with his son. And one of the things that is going to lead up to it is we're working on knots and harnesses one day, and showed Caleb how to do a hasty harness. And he sent me a video a couple of days ago. He's got a son. Caleb, I'm sorry, man. I think his son, Gideon, is 2, I think. And he sent me a picture where he had Gideon up in this hasty harness, holding him up, and he's swinging him around. I'm like, geez, Caleb, whoa. But the kid was giggling the whole time, and he was like, more. And I'm like, ugh. Gonna lose the kid and fall out of this hasty harness. I taught him how to do this, but the hasty harness held. So nice job, Caleb. You're learning. And then the other thing that he sent me too was that this was just a couple days ago. He sent me a video of Gideon. Gideon's got one of those little kid fire costumes, and he's doing a tripod slide around the living room, and he's got a little Halligan. And he's out. I'm like, look at that! Look at him go! And he's going working on the door. And I laughed my ass off. And I replied to him. I said, "You're raising your son right." So it's
That's
cool
awesome.
to see that they're taking. In a weird way, it's cool to see they're kind of taking what they're learning at work and letting their kids know that this is what they do. And another thing with that, I believe it was his youngest son's birthday, and we were in the middle of training when they were showing up, and we were pulling hose in the apparatus bay and doing something I call a quick hit drill. And they sat and watched. They got to watch their dad do a drill in there, and that was pretty cool for me to see that his family could see what he does with this knucklehead, this shaved knucklehead with tattoos. that that is a lot of huff and puff. So to speak, but that makes me happy to see that. AJ, the other guy on my shift, has brought his girlfriend and his daughter down from time to time, and that makes me feel good that they feel comfortable enough to bring them down. So if you ask me, in some way, that kind of makes me feel a little bit closer to them because they're comfortable enough to bring their family down, and it makes me happy again that their family can see what their significant other is doing at work.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah,
For
that's
sure.
awesome. I really think you got to get him to share that video of the tripod with the Halligan. I mean, just you got to get that out there. It's so easy, even a 2-year-old can do it. I mean, it writes itself. It writes itself. I
do believe that Caleb's wife Jackie did post the hasty harness bit on Facebook, I believe. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. Child Protective Services is going to come over.
Knocking on the door.
Hey man, relax. I'm a firefighter. I got this. So
That's awesome. No, I mean that's great. Yeah, we talk about that a lot. We have our families come down. We try and usually do around the holidays, but we have lots of people that stop in and visit and just build a nice relationship. But yeah, training together. There's so many things that benefit from it. I mean, you talk about crew together. We've talked about just like the officers benefiting from it. Knowing what your crew can do. It's a solution. More places. You just got to do it more. That's all it is. Yeah. Well, it's awesome. This next one, this was our favorite question from the previous year, and I'm not going to explain anything more about it because it is 4 words, can be taken anyway, and we want to see where you take it. And it is simply, why are we here?
Well, I think I'm gonna give. It sounds like a canned answer, but it's true. We are there for them. It seems like it's redundant, but it's true. Over the past I don't know, 3 years, that whole concept of we're there for them has kind of really been magnified as I've gotten even more comfortable in my role as being a firefighter. And there, I've had the opportunity to be around a handful of people that are like, it's not so much we're here for them, they should be thanking me because I'm here. I'm here for them, but they should be thank me for my service. Looking for that 15% discount at the local deli because I'm here to protect you. Man, get out of here with that bullshit. I've actually witnessed people go up to store owners and saying, "Hey, listen, could we possibly get a discount at the deli for that?" And I guess if I were to be in a different position at that time, if I would be in this mindset that I am now back then, I would have said, "Knock it off. You're making us look like shit. Knock it off, man. That's in poor taste." And this came from a guy who was, a 20-year veteran and an officer. It seems so hokey and cheesy at the moment, but back to the matter at hand, we are there for them, the people that we serve, and it takes more than just putting a T-shirt on and a funny hat and turnouts on to, what's the word I'm looking for, to show that we're there for them. Because if we don't back up what we do, if we don't train, if we don't become skilled, we're just dressing up in a costume and standing in the front yard and watering the grass, in my opinion. And the people that we serve, they expect the best out of us. And to kind of bring it, I guess, the way that I've always looked at it. And again, I probably should have said this in the beginning. I'm going to go Bobby Eckert on everybody. These opinions and views that I express to you right now are mine. And they're not the opinions of the City of Verona Fire Department or DeForest Windsor Fire and EMS. So, but that being said, the people that we serve expect the best. And I could be standing in the front yard with a volunteer guy and a guy that just joined the department the day before. And John Q. Citizen comes up to me and he doesn't know the difference between the three of us standing in the front yard. That person expects the best possible service. They expect all three of us to operate at the same level. And we all know that that's not always how it is. More often than not, it isn't, for various different reasons. And something that has come up a lot over the past year, in my mind, is this whole idea of, or the question, do the people that we serve really know what they're getting? There's a lot of folks out there, and it's not their fault. There's a lot of folks out there that think that every fire department that's out there is a paid fire department. There's also a lot of people out there that if they know they have a volunteer department, they think that the service is free. That's not true. But to kind of get back on my point, I think if we could sit down and have an honest conversation with the people that we serve, if we had some type of digital readout on it, some type of stat sheet, we could sit down and have a conversation with those people that we serve, and they could see what we have to offer, all of our certificates, everything that we literally accomplished beyond that certificate. This is BJ Breecher. He's 14 years of service. He has A, B, C, D. He's done 1, 2, 3. This is where his heart's at. This is what he does. This is into the gig that he is. But if people we serve could sit down and take a look at that digital readout on a lot of people in our line of work, I think those people would walk away pissed off, seriously pissed off and disappointed. And then there would be a percentage of us that would walk away going, what are you mad about? I've got a pager on. I've got this turnout here. Have you not seen the fire truck that showed up on? I'm here for you, but they haven't done a damn thing to back that up. And those people walking away being pissed off about that, I wouldn't blame them at all. Because I remember before I got involved in this, I would expect every firefighter that shows up to my house to know how to figure that problem out, whether it be my house is on fire, whether I got a gas leak, whether a family member is involved in a P&D, which pulseless non-breather, for those of us who don't know. But again, I think that if our public actually knew what a certain percentage of us had to offer or didn't have to offer, they'd be pissed off and walk away like, what the hell is this? I thought I was getting a competent firefighter. And what I got here instead was somebody that just decided to show up every now and then and only shows up when there's a fire call. Otherwise, he or she doesn't feel like showing up for training. And I feel like I'm shortchanged and I want my tax money back. Something like that. And I think that those of us in the fire service and EMS, and I'll even say law enforcement, need to pay attention to that and understand that we need to give people their money's worth, you know.
Sure.
And it is for them. The only way that we can be there for them is to make sure that we're ready to go every day. You know, we're trained, we're in shape, we're our head and our heart's in the right place. You know, that's the only way that's going to happen. But I think that's clarity that I think that the fire service needs to understand. You know, it's not about us, it's about them.
Yeah, absolutely. There was the fun kind of jab one that, which anytime I see the post and anytime, you know, we talk about, you kind of talked about the views that you're alone. I feel like there's definitely some people that will get offended when you just talk about stuff like this. And the one snarky, but also kind of true comment that I heard a while ago is, you know, the people that get offended are ones that, you know, even though you haven't said their name, that's probably who they are. And if you're being offended, maybe you should take a look at why you're offended. But the post that I was referring to, I saw around Halloween, was like, there's some people dressing up as firefighters today when there's some of you that have been dressing up as firefighters the whole year. And I was like, oh.
True. Yeah, I mean, that's drawn blood, you know,
Yeah.
seriously. But it's true. I mean, we all know, all of us out there know who the pretenders are and who are the real deal. And I've never been ashamed of judging people that way. This is not a game. You know, I think there's a lot of people out there that get involved in the fire service. There's two things that I've noticed. There's people that get in the fire service with the cool schedule and the 15% discount at the local store, and they have a job so that they can also work a second job, stuff like that. And I've seen it on the volunteer side because I've been a volunteer, and I work at a combination department, and I see it on that side too. You know, people show up and this is their hobby. Nah, you can't look at it as a hobby. Okay, a hobby is woodworking out in your garage, and if you screw up on something, oops, you just get another piece of wood and you keep working on that table or whatever you're working on. But there's no do-over. You know, when you roll up on scene and house is on fire and you got to put this out and you screw it up, do-over. No, there is no do-over. This is more than a hobby. So I shift a little bit in my seat when I see people call it a hobby. If it's a hobby, you shouldn't do this, whether you're a volunteer or a career guy. But like I said, we know some of these people that show up because they want to do something cool and they want to help the community. And then when it becomes real, they're like, oh shit, this is not what I expected. You know, prime example of that, the explosion in Sun Prairie that happened a number of years ago. You know, I wasn't working that day, and I was coming back from Verona. I was putting gas in my truck, and I saw the plume in North Madison. I'm like, whoa, what the hell is that? So I looked, and I'm like, holy cow. So I went right back. I had a date that night. I canceled the date. I had stuff to do. I went back to the station. I jumped on board and ended up getting there late. And the look on a lot of these guys' faces that I knew that were guys that probably should have put a little more time into what they were doing and saw some real shit that day, the look on their face like, this is not what I bargained for. I was not prepared for this. And I'm like, yeah, you're going to learn today. You know, I don't mean to come off crass, but it is what it is. You know, a lot of people mean well and they get into this line of work, and then shit gets real and they're like, yeah, no, I'm cool, man. I don't want to do this. This is not for me. And if you can come forward and say, this isn't for me, it's not my deal, that's cool. But don't hang around. Don't hang around and think you're helping just by having gear sitting in a locker. Shit or get off the pot, man.
Yeah.
Should get off the pot. Become part of the solution, not part of the problem. This is a real deal. This is not a hobby. You know, it stops becoming a hobby when you're in somebody's living room, okay, at 2 o'clock in the morning, okay, because their family members' heart stopped.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a hobby anymore. It's not a hobby when you're open front yard and there's fire coming out of the Alpha side second floor. You know, when somebody says, my mom is up there in the second floor and she can't walk, you know, it's not a hobby. I don't know what you call it. I know what it is, but it ain't a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
People are silly.
Yeah. Yeah. We had conversations kind of going along this too, because you always hear one thing I always heard just, you know, through whether it be up at school or when I was on a volunteer, whatever it be, is like the difference between career and volunteer. And our shift was just talking about this the other day because a couple of us were going to be trying to come up with some sort of classes and stuff to teach for like some volunteers as well. And the kind of three that we came up with is career and volunteer. You've got to be just as proficient at search, at flow in a hose line, and I'll throw in rescue, like rescue/education. Like everybody, you always hear volunteer, like, and it's not their fault because, like, you know, I was a volunteer. You don't have the time. You don't have 24 hours at the station. That's not what you get. But if you can't cut a hole on a roof as well, or you can't maybe pump as well, there's ways that'll get you there. But if you can't search and if you can't flow water and put a fire out, you're in trouble.
That's when people get hurt.
And that needs to be at the same level. Like that, if you know, if you're in charge of volunteer training or whatever it be for us combination, like I know we've started to put much more of an emphasis on that, because if I get off the rig, especially combination part, which you're in the same boat, if I get off the rig, our second out is 90% paid on call. And if I can't turn around and go, hey, I need you to VES that second window, or I need you to come with me to search a room, you know, shit's bad. Like if I say, hey, you know, we got the fire knocked down, we need you to go to the roof and cut a hole. Hey, you got time, right? Like that's not, it's, hey, I forgot how I got to make this cut or whatever. It's, you know, someone to walk you through it. But if I say I need you to search that, you better know what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and you know, kind of going back to that, you know, those volunteers that are involved in what we do. I'm not asking you to be all world, but I am asking you to be proficient in basic things. Yeah, I think another thing to a mindset that some people get into is, you know, well, how difficult is it? There's fire, and what do? We spray water on the fire, and the fire goes out. You know, oh, that's it. It's easy. You know, and that's a false premise that people get in their minds. And why is that? Because those of us that run training or create training opportunities, you know, I want to say this, it is a little bit of work to create real life, or as close to real life training scenarios as you can. More often than not, what happens when we do training scenarios is we pull a hose into an empty house, okay, and maybe we have carpeted floors, maybe we have linoleum, there's no couches, there's no smoke, there's no heat, there's no pumps going in the background, there's no radios. It's just very simple and easy. And I understand that you should do that to get the point across. I do believe in the whole premise of crawl, walk, run. That's great. However, we're not crawling when we're addressing these emergencies. Okay. Any time that I've been in charge of a training at DeForest, I've done my best to create scenarios that were close to real as possible. Prime example. So we had, I don't know, about 2 years ago, we had two houses. One we were going to burn and one we weren't going to burn. And chief says, hey, you get this house. It's all yours. You can do whatever you want to it, but you can't burn it. I'm like, all right. And I thought to myself, so what can I do that I haven't seen at some of these other scenarios that I've either trained in here at other departments or even at MATC? I'm like, the first thing I'm doing is I'm going to put a bunch of shit in this house. Okay. Because we don't search and we don't pull lines into empty homes. There's stuff in them. People put stuff in houses, you know, and I went out of my way to create. I got online and I just put out a call. Hey, anybody any furniture they want to get rid of? Any blankets? Any old pillows? furniture you don't want around anymore. Let me know. I'll come by and pick it up. Man, I picked up mattresses. I picked up old crummy tables. And when I kind of came to the end of that well, of getting things from that well, I built stuff. And it didn't have to be perfect. I went down to the local warehouse and I got a bunch of pallets and I just screwed something, a real rough looking table and a real rough looking bed together, just to have things to search around and create a particular level of difficulty that the department hadn't had anymore. And that creates a completely different perspective and a different training mentality. Because I always fear that if we always pull a hose line into an empty house with no heat, no smoke, anything like that, there's this false idea that, well, again, like I said, I just got to pull a hose in the house and spray it. And we start putting things in front of people. They get in the house like, oh, I got to get around this. I got to go over that. I got to go under this. Who put this in the way? What the hell is that? You're preparing them mentally for what they're actually going to come in contact with when they do pull that line, so that when they do pull that line, they go in the front door and holy shit, somebody put a couch right in front of the door here for some reason. They don't suddenly be like, oh my God, this is too tough. And they don't get 15, 20 feet inside the door and they're like, yeah, I can't do this. It's too tough. I got to get out. We need to train as realistic as possible.
It makes people critical think. You get them used to critical thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
When the real deal comes, they're used to critical thinking and get the job done. So yeah, I like that.
And this is the other thing too. And it was one of the moments I really got pissed off in the fire service up to this point. I was talking to a chief and he said this. He goes, yeah, well, I can teach a monkey to be a firefighter. And I'm like, the hell you can. Okay. You might be able to have a monkey pull a line through the front door and spray water willy-nilly. All right. But he's not going to be able to go in the front yard, get information from a family member and say, hey, my family member is up there in the AB corner and there's smoke rolling. I'm not going to have that monkey's not going to be able to critical think and throw a ladder, to do a window-based search. Not going to be able to figure out how to, force a door open beyond just hitting it open if he is strong enough. Not going to be able to read smoke. That is the biggest bunch of bullshit I've ever heard from anybody. And it came from a chief.
That's crazy.
And I was never so pissed off in my entire life.
Yeah.
Wait,
then I went to the gym after that.
I was gonna say, you mean to tell me the VES raccoon's not actually a
Oh,
thing?
the VES raccoon, yeah, from the Kings Who Fools boys. That was fun. I got a reaction on Ray McCormick from that. That was a very proud moment in my life.
That was awesome. That was an awesome picture. But
I laughed my ass off when I saw that. I'm like, hey man, ladder, I don't need a stinking ladder.
you can't teach a monkey to be a fireman, but you can teach a raccoon to. It's great, right?
Exactly. I'm gonna see that next time. Yeah, I know a raccoon. Let me show you the pictures. Because it's on the internet and everything you see on the internet is real, right, fellas?
Absolutely, right? That's why it's around.
It's the only way to learn.
I'm pretty sure Abe Lincoln made that quote, right? I saw that on the internet too. That was,
yeah, 1983.
Wikipedia, I saw that.
No, that's true. It's really that critical thinking, and that was something that even recently I think I caught myself not doing as much, not necessarily on the fire ground, but Brennan, it was probably the last shift before 2 shifts before I left for vacation. So this is only like 2 weeks ago. Our lieutenant, I remember we had one of our probies, their 6-month eval. So they were pulling a bunch of line and everything. And we just switched to all smoothbore. So we also got all new lines. So we have very limited extras. Like if we empty a full truck, we're going to be like 50 feet short. And that was exactly what happened. And I'm sitting there staring at the crosslay, and we were down there. I think, Brennan, you were down there with 2 of our other members, and like, oh my God, we're 50 feet short. And I was like, Jesus, damn it. I'm sitting here thinking, I go up to our lieutenant, and I'm like, hey, man, our crosslay is 50 feet short. And he's like, without missing a beat, he's like, okay, pull it off the trash line. It's our city engine. We're not going to be using any car fires there. And there's 100 feet, you have 50 feet left. And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, why did I think of that? I was like, I was already like, oh my God, we were 50 feet short. We got to go and just boom. And I was like, oh my God. And just personally thinking about that, I was thinking of all the times I brought it to our lieutenant, to W. He's one of the best at critically thinking. And it was like just that Rolodeck, which I'm not old enough to know, but it went all through my face of all the times that like I've just went to him like, hey, we've got a problem. And he's like, oh, well, here's the solution. And I was like, holy shit, I should be thinking of that more. Like
we were paged out for a semi fire out on the interstate, my last shift. And kind of going back to the critical thinking, we jumped in the rig. We had people together, made the decision to have the ambulance staffed by one person. The rest of us jumped in engine 2, and we were off. We were game planning on the way there. Hey, listen, this is what I want. This is what I see. We're going to drive by. We're going to be able to do that size up, swing around, come back, and we'll make adjustments. Monkey's not going to do that, man. Monkey's not going to do that.
And having a sense of like forward thinking, like if I did this, what's going to happen? Just having a game plan in your head, A, B, C, D. I think that goes a long way too.
Absolutely.
If you start doing that now, I think you'd be a lot better at it and make better decisions on the fireground. So,
yeah, absolutely. That comes with experience too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everything about the job. I mean, you think all public safety, law enforcement, even especially EMS and fire, like it is all critical thinking. I mean, that's one of the fun, but I think most frustrating thing for people when they get into this line of work. Like I was just teaching medic today, and that's, I think, the hardest thing for a lot of them to understand is you think you get into this or you go to any school and you're given black and white answers. Like, this is what you find, this is what you do. And then you get into this line of work and it's like, well, I always say, we play in the gray. Like, you're going to have SOGs, you're going to have EMS protocols, you're going to have all these things that are laid out, but they can't fathom or even begin to cover every scenario that we're going to come across because, like you said, people are weird and weird shit happens. And they will never be able to figure it out. So you have to have a baseline plan, and then you have to be able to critically think on top of it because you are never going to be able to flip open a book or flip to a protocol or an SOG and have it written out what you should be doing for everything. I mean, it doesn't work. It's not what this job entails.
No, and a lot of those things that we accumulate over the duration of our career, in my opinion, in my experience, are more based on experience. I firmly believe that you learn more once you do the job than anything you've learned in Fire 1 and Fire 2 and all that stuff. And like I told a lot of people, that entry level and that Fire 1 and that Fire 2, that's just your cover charge to get in the party, man.
Mm-hmm.
Once you're in the party, that's where the real learning starts. Throw all this other stuff out the window. Fire 1, should you go get that stuff? Absolutely. You should. You should have a base to learn from so that you know the difference between a smoothbore and a combination. That's a New York hook. This is a Halligan. That's a pumper. That's an aerial, all those things. But once you get immersed in what we're doing and actually get your hands on stuff, that's where the real learning starts.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And then that's where you learn to critically think. It is part of what we do. And I don't think, personally for me, I don't want to be in the back of an ambulance, and I want to be in the back of a fire truck with a bunch of robots.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that doesn't work. Okay, we've got to be able to think. We need to move, communicate, and problem solve. That's how these things get done.
Absolutely. Well, believe it or not, and that's why we love that question. That all stemmed from Why Are We Here, which I'm pretty sure I asked 30 minutes ago. So that was great. That was the last one we got through, but lots of great rabbit holes. This week, what we love about this. But I'm going to skip ahead a couple of ours because we probably are going to go a little close on time.
That's so, dude.
There's nothing wrong with that. It's those are all great conversations. That's the best thing that happens from it. These questions are just landmarks. If I ask one question and we just talk on that, that'd be great. Because then, Brent and I can stop trying to come up with ones. Which, send in questions. Nailed it. We threw that in there.
Yep.
No, Brent and I sit here pondering and trying to come up with it. We're not smart people. We need you guys to send
questions are hard.
There's so many different ways. We got the website now. We got Facebook. You can text us. You can call me, email. you could do, I don't know, send me a pigeon, smoke signals, whatever it be. You get questions in, we'll get them in the podcast. But this next one, we want you to get in a little bit because I know it's very near and dear to your heart. And I'm going to ask it this way, even though I am on one. But why should I join a Fools chapter?
Oh, why should you? Because you get to drink Malort. That's
no,
why.
I'm done. I'm done. I'm done.
Little Blue City Fools thing there. Why should I join a Fools group? Well, here's my story, and this is why I think everyone should join Fools. So when I was first, it was a pivotal point for me in my fire service career. I'd been doing this fire thing for maybe about, I don't know, at that point, maybe 3 years. And I remember I jumped online and was looking for training opportunities. Just hit Google and looked, and I came across a training through the Wisconsin Fire Chiefs Association website, I think, where Bruce City Fools were doing a training in Makwanago, Wisconsin. It was a RIT training. And I'm like, wow, Fools. What's a Fools? I looked at Fraternal Order of Leatherhead Society, blah, blah, blah. And I read it, and I looked, I'm like, well, this is kind of like a cool class that I could attend. And it was all weekend. And I looked at the price, and it was like $50. I don't know exactly what that was, but it was super cheap. And I'm like, oh, I just happened to have off that weekend. And I couldn't make it to the classroom portion. It was a 3-day. They did Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. And I happened to get in contact with somebody in the organization there. And they're like, yeah, you know what? Don't worry about coming Friday night. Just be there Saturday and Sunday. We'll call it. And I went there, and they were doing shit that I'm like, this is cowboy shit. Now, understand where I'm coming from at this time. Okay. I'm like, this is some of this stuff is like stuff that I've seen officers in my volunteer department go, nah, don't do that. That's cowboy shit. They were doing stuff like ladder bailouts, and we were doing the Nance Trip and stuff like that. It just blew my mind because I'm like, wow, these guys are actually teaching this. This is cowboy stuff, but this is cool as hell. And the more I thought about it too, I'm like, you know what? This is relevant. And this is stuff I didn't learn in the book per se. So some of these cowboy things that they were doing made sense. And I couldn't marry the fact that it was frowned upon because, again, like I said, it makes sense. And I thought it was relevant. So I left that training that weekend scratching my head going, I've been told this whole time that some of these things that they're doing there are cowboy stuff and we shouldn't do it. But at the same time, it made sense. I could do it. I felt comfortable. I didn't get hurt. There's got to be something to what they're teaching, but also something to this group. And then as I researched it more, I noticed, hey, there's fools groups all over the place. And there was this preconceived idea that it was a bunch of guys that got together and got drunk and stuff like that. And nothing could be farther from the truth. Now, we'll get together and have beers. I'm not going to shy away from that, okay? But it's never gotten out of hand. It hasn't been the centerpiece of what we do as an organization. Trust me. But I started to look at more things that they were doing, and they had more training opportunities coming up. And I learned so much from these guys that it was a great opportunity to learn some things. Now, I'm going to be honest here. I'm not going to say that each Fools group is the same across the board, just like every fire department is across the board. I only know what I know, okay? And that's my interaction with Bruce City. And it's a great way to learn some practical skills that you can use. And some of these things that I learned there, I brought back to my department. I incorporated into what I do every day on shift. Training opportunities is a great way. The other great thing about joining a Fools organization is networking. They talk about brotherhood. And personally, I think, in my opinion, the word brother is thrown around way too much in the fire service. And I might piss some people off in saying that. I might leave them the sour, taste in their mouth. But there are times when, okay, brother, I don't know you, and I'm not trying to be rude, but I think brotherhood is thrown around all too often. However, the guys that I met in this Fools group, I do consider brothers, okay? Because I've established great relationships with these people. I know where their hearts are at, and we're kind of on the same level as far as interest and engagement in the fire service. So it's a great way to meet other people. It's a great way to network. It's a great way to get your name out there too if you're looking for other jobs. And also to top it off, Bruce City, I got involved, or I became a board member when and we were out doing some of these really cool things. We were training other departments, but we were also doing fundraisers. One of the most fun times I've ever had in my tenure with Bruce City is when we went to the Ronald McDonald House. This is about 4 years ago, I think, something like that. We cooked breakfast for the families that were there. That was fun. That was a lot of fun. And especially somebody like myself, excuse me, who I come from a family who were restaurant owners. So I kind of know my way around kitchen a little bit, okay? And we were making breakfast, and my family used to own a restaurant, and we were known in the area for the breakfast that we made. And I can whip up a pretty mean omelet, man. So they said, what do you want to do? And I go, give me that spatula, get out of my way, And we were making breakfast for them, and I was whipping up eggs and talking to the families that were there. And you learn a little bit more about why these families are at the Ronald McDonald House in the first place, and you're just kind of like, ooh, okay. And you kind of look at what they're going through, and it felt really good for me to, number one, make them laugh, okay, and number two, offer something to them that I was good at that hopefully made their day a little bit better. So, giving back to the community is another thing that Fools chapters do.
Awesome. Yeah. You hear that, Brennan? You should join.
I have to send in my money.
No, I mean we've talked. I know we've shouted out a lot everywhere, but yeah, like you said, everyone's different. But yeah, Fools is a great way. I mean, I'm trying to get our couple of our new people on board of joining too, which it sounds like they're going to. But it's the easiest answer. I mean, one of our newer members, she asked me, she's like, where do you find all these trainings? She's like, I want to go to more trainings. I want to learn more. And she's like, I can't go travel to Wichita or wherever there. But she's like, where do you find all these? And I was like,
you brought up Wichita. You're breaking my heart, man. We're not going this year.
I know.
We'll
and then next year.
25.
I know. Isaac said next year. He said next year. He built the hype for firemanship. We'll show up in firemanship. It'll be great.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that was that's just the easiest way to get in. Because I mean, like you said, it was $50 and you went there. But I mean, I can speak for Old Fashioned. I don't know if Bruce is the same, but our membership is $20 for the year, and then those trainings are free for you. So like, it's pocket change when you think of how much things cost nowadays to even do that and just get free trainings and go out and get out of your comfort zone, get out of your 50-mile radius and learn some new stuff. So
yep.
Knew you'd have a good side on that. I wanted to make sure we got that question in there. But this one I was wondering if you're going to go into a little bit there, but I think you can have it a little. I don't know if it's the same one. If it is, you can tell me and we'll move on. But what was your training awakening moment? What was the moment you realized that you really wanted to go to all these other trainings? You really wanted to dive in more than you were?
Okay, that's a very cool question, and it kind of caught me out of left field. So I knew that the Fools training opened my mind to things. Okay, like I just mentioned, some of these cowboy things. And I knew that some of these things I was learning were practical. But I guess one of the really big training moments for me was in 2019. I went down to Ohio, and I went down to the Oath Keepers Fire Service, or the Oath Keepers Fire Conference, and went down there by myself. It's kind of a weird point for me in my life. I don't want to get into details, but I was kind of in this weird spot. Career was going well, but I needed to get out of town and go do some fire things. And I was down there, and it's kind of in a weird moment where I'm like, you know what, man, it's Friday, was fun. Saturday, we're doing truck stuff. We're going to do search and all that stuff. I'm all in for that. And then Sunday was kind of like engine stuff. Not that I don't care to do engine stuff. Believe me, I'll do it. I love being weird. I love being that second guy on the line. Being the nozzle is cool, but I love being that heel guy. All right. But I digress. So I'm like, yeah, maybe I'll bust out of here Saturday night and take off. And I met some guys down there that were cool, and got along with them. Kind of sparked up a little bit of friendship. Like, these guys are cool. Maybe I'll stick around, and whatever. So Sunday rolls around, and it was engine stuff, and Kyle Romagus was teaching, and there were a few other guys that were doing that engine track, and while we were there, we did some stairwell push stuff, and I had really never put much thought into it at that point of pushing stairwells, at least from a technique point. And we also did some nozzle forward stuff, which I had never really had exposure to before. I knew about it, but I never did it. And I remember putting myself in the position to move that hose, getting the clamp slide and do the knee walk and stuff like that. And I kind of had a moment where I'm like, okay, I see the relevance of this, but this is going to be a bitch to do. Whatever, I'm going to suck it up. And I started doing it, and it was awkward, and it was uncomfortable, but I'm like, what, I'm gonna try this again. I need to get this down. And I started doing that knee walk, and it became something that I'm like, this is pretty freaking cool. This is something that I can use. And I wouldn't say that it was a rebirth moment for me, but I kind of felt like my career was kind of going like this and starting to go back down again, where I was maybe some way, shape, or form kind of getting a little bored. But that moment put me right back up, where I'm like, okay, that's really difficult to do. I'm going to keep working on it. I just learned some cool stuff. I got more things to learn. Not only doing the nozzle forward stuff, but pushing through the hallway there, and then putting these things into play during not live fire, but a lot of heavy smoke and heat scenarios, and forcing doors and being able to pull that stuff off, and having such a good time with those guys that I was paired with down there with Ben and Frankie and Ronnie. I felt I can't say I fell in love with or refell in love with the fire service, but my passion for the fire service became so much more significant that I'm just like, oh man, I got to have more of this. I got to have more of this. Where it's kind of fast forward to where I am now, where I'm like, I got to sit down and look at my trainings, and like, okay, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I can't overbook myself. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Hey baby, what are we doing the weekend of this and that? Do you have boys? Okay, I can't do that this weekend. And the next thing you know, she's like, send me your schedule so I know what's going on this month and where you're going to be and all that stuff. But that was really a pivotal moment where I just really got a boost. It's kind of like I equate it to, you're running the race and you're in first place and you're getting kind of tired and you're starting to fall back a little bit. Maybe not into like last place, but you're maybe in about second or third place. And then this happened, and I bump right back up to the front of the pack, where I'm like, oh, man, I need to do this. I need to do this. That was a moment for me when I learned some new stuff, and it became a challenge, and I realized I could do this, and this is relevant, and I can bring this back to my department and even to myself professionally.
Absolutely. Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. Sorry. I mean, like, you just got to find that passion. I mean, it can happen at the 1 year mark, at the 10 year mark, whatever it be, that, either you have that slip or whatever. You hear that a lot. I think it's a very, very common story you hear, especially when you go to a lot of trainings, like Into the Job, or just where you got a lot of firemen around, a lot of firefighters, and everybody typically has a little lull that something brought them out of there. And that's what you got to do is, everybody has something, but figure it out and get through it.
Oh, absolutely. And again, I think that's beyond going to these conferences and seminars outside of your department to learn some new skills. You meet some people that inspire you. Mm-hmm. It's cool to bump into somebody you've never met before and find you have a common ground with them, and you work well with them, and you get motivated to get better and to really get immersed in what you do and become that professional that you want to be. And even if you don't reach that apex, you try to get close enough to it.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about and give him so much credit here, but Jeremy Sanders, he's basically now I'm giving him all the credit. I don't mean to blow smoke up your ass this much, Jeremy, but he basically is a big reason as to why we're all here right now. That was the first training that Brennan and I went to outside, a little aside from Fools, because I was with Fools a little bit, but that was the first one that we went to just outside of the norm, that we heard that first stuff going on and got to, just meet him. Like we've talked about, we were too scared to actually talk to him in person, but to Facebook message him a week later and have him respond right away and encourage this and help us out the ways that he has, and coming back on each year. And now we're going out to Atlanta to see him. Like that all stemmed from one connection at a training. I mean, and Sean Duffy was there too. He responded very, very quickly in his own time too, and gave us some great advice, and I helped us out. But that was the first training that sparked this, that has become, of anything. I mean, I'm always beyond excited and happy to hear that people love listening to this, but above everything else, it's become such an easy conversation point. I mean, last was Chad Daly from Kansas City. Now we got Corley coming on next week. We're able to have you come on here. Like, the people we've been able to reach out to and the conversations we've had, just basically, if you condense it to one small point coming from one training that we reached out, it's been insane. Unbelievable.
Yeah, there's a lot of good people, and in my opinion, especially with the advent of social media, this is a really great time to learn. There's so many people that are accessible that we can reach out to, and I mean, there's so much knowledge out there. There's so much knowledge, but all you have to do is ask for it. And sometimes you don't even need to ask for it. You just got to go out and look for it, and you'll find it.
Or just scroll through Facebook. That's so many Facebook messages from so many people. You have all these posts. I mean, good, bad, ugly, and funny. You get you get all these ones sent that you get to reach out and see what everybody's done. It's
absolutely.
So cool.
Absolutely. And if we all know, like I said before, we all know who the pretenders are and the real people are. It doesn't take long to figure out, who's got their game straight and who's just, showboating. Who we know who the workhorses are, and we know who the show ponies are. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Yeah. Another BJ classic right there.
I'm full of them.
Awesome. Next question that we got in there.
Some people tell you I'm full of it. So.
I can see it gets confused a little bit. They're close. They're close. Next one that we got on here is kind of going back to the trainings that you've been able to do, that knowing you've been able to bring about in your department. How did you develop, or how do you maintain a training culture at your fire department?
That's interesting. I don't think there's really one answer to that question, because anytime that you get a number of people together, it's difficult to get everybody on the same page. You may get 3 guys together, and one person may be just there for the paycheck. The other person may be just eaten up by the job, and this is what I do. There's no other place I'd rather be. And then there's another guy that's, I'm just here to do this so that I can get a lieutenant position. But I think what's important is that you try to impress upon everybody that, how can I put this? I think it's important to introduce to everybody that when they come onto a shift, that this is what we do and this is how we do it. And I'll use this as an example. When I went from A shift to the C shift that I'm at right now, we just kind of got on shift and did our thing. And I did a lot of things on my own. And I hope I'm not speaking for the other guys on my shift, or I hope that I'm not putting words in their mouth or their brains or whatever. But I would go and do things, And in some way, shape, or form, I kind of felt like they wanted to know more. These were two guys that had, Fire One, but they were medics, so they were very well schooled on the medic side of things, but they weren't as into the job as I was on the fire side. But I could tell that they were hungry to learn some things. So I think it's a lot like, at least from my experience, placing those things out in front of them and saying, okay, here's the deal. We're going to do something today. We're going to get out and we're going to pull hose. All right. And there's a lot of people that look at training as punishment. Like, oh my God. And I knew this is what was going to happen, because I feel I have a reputation of being like this at DeForest. Oh shit, Breecher's leading training day. He's going to beat the ever living crap out of us. We're going to pull hose all day, and we're going to be jumping in and out of windows, and he's going to beat the crap out of us. And I will admit, there are some times I'm full send. And I'm sure that those guys were like, oh shit, he's on my shift. Oh man. But I made it a point to go back to that crawl, walk, run thing. Hey man, we're going to spend a half an hour, and all we're going to do is we're going to hook up 100 feet of hose, and we're going to charge it. We're not going to spray any water, but we're just going to work on moving that hose around objects. And I think that a lot of people at the department are like, oh, he's just going to destroy that ship. And those guys are going to be just beat up all the time. And he's going to make them go to the gym all the time. And he's just going to work them over, and no one's going to be happy. But I made it a point to make these trainings not beyond their level of comprehension and physical ability, so that they didn't dread doing it, and that they felt they actually could accomplish something. So my point being is that if you want to create that training culture, don't punish them, for lack of a better term, but you do have to have them walk away feeling like they did something, they learned something. And I think it was a lot, and I know I use a lot of analogies. I'm sure they were like sticking their toes in the pool. And they're like, oh, wow, I guess the water isn't so bad after all. Okay, I'll get in and I'll do this. I'll jump in. And making it to where they felt that they were accomplishing something. And they had fun with it too. I made sure that we had fun with our trainings that we do. We had a house a couple months ago that the department was using, but the shifts weren't using them. They weren't doing stuff in them. And I'm like, we got two houses. Nobody's going out, even on our department training nights, and doing stuff with them. Well, I'm gonna make use of that. So I started putting trainings together, guys. Hey guys, today we're gonna go out to the house today. We're gonna do fun stuff. Oh yeah, we're gonna turn windows into doors. And they're like, oh, okay. And one of the things that really made me happy, and still makes me happy, is when I show these guys a skill and they do it. It's funny, and I'm sorry for bringing your name up, AJ. I know you're watching this, but this really warms a skill, and you'll pull it off, and his eyes will get big, and he'll be like a little kid on Christmas morning, like, oh, I just did that. Holy shit, that was really cool.
BJ, real quick, somehow, some reason, you disappeared and then came back up 5 seconds after you started talking.
You can't see me.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. But you just apologized. You just apologized to AG. You said sorry for bringing it up, and then you disappeared, and then came back like John Cena. It was crazy.
Yeah, I'll pick up where I left off. Yeah. So and again, I apologize for bringing you up, AJ, on the podcast here. But you're a great example of this. When AJ learns something new on shift, his eyes get big and he gets excited like a little kid on Christmas morning when he knows that Santa was here. And I love that. That's so much fun just to see him, his eyes light up with stuff like that. Something I learned at Great Lakes Hot last year was when you're removing somebody, the firefighter that went, falls through a floor, and you take the roof ladder, and you put it in front of them. And then when you lay that through, they can put their hands up on over that ladder, and then you take the Halligan, you take the pike of the Halligan, you put it in the hole where the rung goes through in the ladder, and you go like that. It acts like a lever, and it actually picks them up and pulls them up. And I went down in the hole because I'm a great stunt man. I will do dumb shit just to get a point across. To have these guys, figure it out. So I jumped down in the hole, got my hand up on the ladder, and they put the pike in that hole where the rung is, and he pulled up on it, and it raised me up and brought me back. And his eyes got big. He's like, "Oh, that really works." We were doing another training out there where we did a scenario where there was a downed firefighter in the basement. What we needed to do is we needed to turn that window into a door, first to have access to the floor. And AJ went through and he cut and cut. And then Caleb went out and pushed that cut part down, and it went in, and AJ stopped, and they looked at each other and they fist bumped. I'm like, that's cool. There's some connection that was made there. They accomplished something. Another thing, we did a training around the station where, respectful entry. And I don't claim to be an expert, but I know some things. And what we did is we closed the dorm doors. And what we did is we took a milk jug, and I cut a piece of the milk jug out, and we used that as a shove knife to get in between the jambs of the doors. And he was working on it, and he got in the door open, and he stopped for a second, and his eyes got huge. He's like, "Huh, that's pretty cool." Again, that makes me so happy when something clicks. And I know that those guys walk out of the bay or whenever we're done training feeling a little bit better about themselves. And I think that also brings that culture together. We're like, hey, we're going to learn some cool shit today. I don't know what we're going to learn, but I'm going to walk away from this training feeling that much better about what I do. And I know a lot of these guys, I feel it in my heart that when they go home, especially when I see Caleb, and I talked about that video before with him putting his son in a hasty harness, watching his son, sneak around around the house like that. I know that he feels good going home, saying, "Hey, I did some fire stuff. I want to show you kids what I did today at work." So I know that they feel better about that, and that makes me feel good. And the
That's
people
awesome.
that we in the church should feel good about that too.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Well, that concludes the regular questions. Now we have our closing questions to go over, which as you were answering that, I feel kind of bad because I think I stole Chad's thunder. However, I think you can probably expand on it even more.
Sure.
Based on the conversation that we were just having, Chad's question for you is, what is the best way to influence people around you without turning them off? So it's kind of what you just talked about, but I know you can expand on it more.
Exactly. You got to make how can I put this? Not everything that we do with training is everybody's cup of tea. Okay. And we can't convince everybody that hose testing is cool. It needs to be done. There are things that we have to do. Okay. Understand that. But everything that we do at the fire station, we talk about training, doesn't have to be drudgery. It doesn't have to be, oh my God, we're doing boarding today. This is so easy. I've put collars on hundreds of people. This sucks. Or, oh my God, we're throwing ladders today. There's a lot, but it doesn't have to be that way. And when you lead training, you can do these things in a way that's presentable. Yes, firefighting is a physical, active thing, but just because we're throwing ladders doesn't mean that I'm going to make everybody throw every ladder 5 times, including the 35, okay, by themselves. Again, fellas, there we go.
There we go.
Yeah, every training doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be torture. It doesn't. We can make it fun. We can make it digestible. Yes, training sometimes needs to push our people, but it also has to be, I don't want to say enjoyable, but it needs to be in an environment that you can definitely digest it and learn it.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. That's perfect.
Another thing too is I try to have some fun with my training. So one thing, I got a forcible entry PowerPoint that I did. There's always this joke about Bruce Smash, which is kind of that type of thing. Like he likes forcible entry. He likes to smash stuff. So what I did in my PowerPoint is I incorporated the Incredible Hulk into some of my images with some of the things that I did. And I got some really cool images from the internet to kind of lighten everything, lighten the attitude. I think if you can kind of bridge that gap and have some fun with what you're doing and create some laughs. I remember we were doing forcible entry training once, and if you go online, you can find, I can't remember the comedian's name, Dane Cook, where he's got a bit he does about kicking a door in, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. And I incorporated that video into forcible entry. If you can kind of make that fun, that's going to make that a little bit easier because everybody loves death by PowerPoint, right, fellas?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
right? Favorite time,
so
especially
fun.
when it's bloodborne pathogens.
Adversity training.
Favorite day.
Oh.
Like a fat kid at Kmart. No, I mean that's perfect. I think one thing that we like to do a lot of on our shift, or not even like to, I don't even think they plan it, just happens with all the personalities in here, is just make things a competition. I mean, that's like the easiest way that gets us all riled up and have fun in training is even our annual standards. We're sitting there just competing against each other, and
and I think too, the thing about making it competitive is you learn some things too about how you're doing things. Here's a prime example. When I first got to DeForest, I'll say it, we're a nose-in fire department. We got a fire, we got our hose lines, we got cross lanes, but we also have them in the hose bed up front. And at the time when we got there, I'm not ripping on anybody, but the thought crossed my mind: what in the hell are we doing? They had very small bins to hold the hose, and it was like back and forth. The hose lays that they had in there crisscrossing each other weren't more than like 2.5 to 3 feet long. So you're taking 200 feet of hose and, doing these little back and forth and crisscross. It looked like, grandma's pie when she made it for you. Cross, back and forth like that. And I'm like, this is ridiculous, but whatever. I'm new here. I'm going to shut my mouth. And the competition that night was who could pull the hose from the nose of the rig the fastest, get it deployed, and then have water sent. All right, fine. So everybody's doing their thing, and all of a sudden it comes out, well, let's get the full timers to take on the part timers, the volleys. And I'm like, all right, man, whatever. So we got out there, and the way that the hose was deployed was just like reaching in to a laundry bin and grabbing dirty laundry and carrying it. I'm like, this is some shit right here. This is absolutely ridiculous. And yes, we got beat. And I didn't take that very well. So I started thinking about it. I'm like, this is bullshit. Not only because we got beat, but also this is a ridiculous way to do this. So we started by putting webbing around the hose. And we experimented with that for a little bit, where you're pulling this package of hose out, and then you break the buckles and you pull it. And I thought that was still a bunch of bullshit. So from that, and JD was part of this whole process, where we came up with kind of like a quasi scorpion load, where we did pre-rolls where we had loops, and we'd actually pull it out and it would roll out. And that failure in that competition is where we found a better way to pull that hose. And that particular way of hose loading and pulling that hose has lasted for 5 years. It's still there. It's been very successful.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great. All things come from it, especially when you got a bunch of type A personalities. Everything turns into a competition. Yeah.
Yep.
You always learn from it. At least at the bare minimum, it always adds that level of stress, or just like
still there, fellas.
Intensity. Oh. Yep.
There we go. All right.
Perfect. But I was saying it at the bare minimum, it still adds that level of stress or intensity. You can't mimic an actual fire ground with not actual fire, but you go from, we're just pulling hose to pull hose to now I got to beat the guy next to me.
Right.
You know, you're moving faster. You have more opportunities to be
Mhm.
similar to the fire ground, more opportunities to make those mistakes. Or all of a sudden you're like,
Mhm.
hey, yeah, this is stupid that we're doing it. This we gotta learn
Yeah.
from it and fix it. So
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you. Most of us are type A personalities.
mm-hmm.
We don't. I know I don't like to lose.
Yeah,
I also
no,
know there are some things that I don't take as seriously as others. I'll be honest with you, and people might hate me for this, but I think the whole hose barrel thing where they push the barrel back and forth. You
oh
guys know what I'm
yeah,
talking about? Bar
yeah,
fights. I think it's silly.
Yeah.
That's just
I
me
don't get
though.
the whole hype either, but
yeah,
I don't care for it. I think it's silly. That's just me
yeah,
though.
yeah.
Whatever.
Well,
However, you know, dragging dummies, pulling lines. Oh, it's on. Let's do this.
yeah,
You know.
yeah, absolutely. Well, that's a good answer for that. I was glad you could expand it. I was sitting there reading it and I realized that Chad had set up basically the last question we already asked too. So although
Mhm.
you're a great guy to answer, you're able to keep diving in and expanding more on it. So now I've been curious for this ever since you said you were prepared for this. Our last question we have is the question that you have to come up with for Corley next week ish, 2 weeks, whatever our next episode is. So yeah, what question do you wish you asked as a new firefighter, or do you still have to be answered in the fire service?
Okay. My question to Coralie is: you're cooking, Coralie. You're making a meal. What is the meal you're ace in the hole? You're knocking out of the park meal that you think everybody is going to love. What are you making?
ooh,
I'm at
okay.
your department one day and you're cooking for me. What are you making?
Maybe I got some cooking ideas because I cooked next shift tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's
Keep this in mind here.
that's awesome because I immediately started thinking, I'm like, I don't think I've ever heard Corley talk about cooking.
Hmm?
Like
Oh
and
yeah,
just
yes,
like
everyone else, but he never answered himself.
yeah, yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. Is I haven't heard his,
Mhm.
but that's fantastic. That'll be a good one for him. So type that in there. Awesome. Well, you came up. That was the quickest time that anybody's came up with that question. That stumped everybody else. So that's a thumbs up to you. But now we got the last part of the episode, which is just our kitchen table. So,
Sure.
anything that you want to add, that you want to expand upon that we talked about in the podcast, and what shout outs you got? Shout outs for people, events, trainings, stuff you got going on, whatever it be. Now's kind of your time to shoot the shit.
I mean, there's a couple things going on. We talked about Bruce City Fools and Ronald McDonald House. Bruce City, we have the through Taylor's Tins, we have the tin of the month. So that is for the month of February. We're the featured tin, and proceeds from the sales of that tin go to the Ronald McDonald House of Eastern Wisconsin. So get on it, and I've already got mine, and it's already shipped this morning.
Oh
I
my
already
god, they're so
They're
fast.
wicked fast.
Yeah,
bam. Yep,
yeah,
definitely.
because our cadets were January. That was kind of cool to see that you guys were this month. But yeah, I just double checked the dates. So this is going to be February 20th that this is coming out. So at this time, you guys got a week and like 2 days left. So sell them out. Get some tins. Help everybody out. So yeah, that's awesome. Maybe a good time. Hopefully we get a little push. Maybe I'll even send Taylor a message, see if we can find out how many people ordered after the February 20th mark. It'd be kind of cool to see
Sure.
if there's a surge going in. But you guys were great for January's 10th of the month for the Explorers. I'm waiting to get the final answers from Taylor there, but we heard lots of really good stuff for how many people are buying some tins. So you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for all the help, and help get Bruce City some stuff. What else you got, BJ?
Couple other things going on. As I mentioned, I work part-time for the city of Verona, and I'm gonna give a shout out to Dustin Roeder. He's one of the full-time lieutenants at Verona, and he would never say this himself, but because he's kind of a low-key guy. But Dustin has done an amazing job with setting up some trainings that we've been doing at Verona over the past 2 years, and we've done engine days. We did truck days, which was a huge success. And next up on April 5th, I believe, That's a Saturday, that first Saturday in April, or is it the 6th? Regardless, it's that first Saturday in April. We've got squad
April
days.
6th.
April 6th. Okay, we have squad days, and there's going to be a lot of extrication. If you could see the parking lot at the city of Verona right now, we have a very good relationship with Dish Towing. There's so many vehicles in that parking lot right now for extrication stuff. But Dustin has done an amazing job with setting up these trainings. And like I said, we're doing the squad days. We're going to be ripping cars apart all day, man. All day. We've got some cool scenarios that they're putting together. We're going to have different vendors for extrication equipment being there. I believe we still have plenty of openings. And you can, through Eventbrite, I believe the tickets are available, or you can go to Verona Fire Department of Wisconsin, because there's one on the East Coast too. But Verona, Wisconsin's Facebook, and you can find a link to register for the site or register for the class there. But again, Dustin has done an amazing job with these classes, and we've gotten really good feedback from it. So I see no reason why the squad class would be any different than any of the other classes that we've done so far.
Perfect. Well, Brennan, we're off, so we'll talk the shift tomorrow. Maybe we'll get a group going down there. So what time does it start? Out of curiosity, we'll get through it real quick. What time does squad start? The squad
I
days?
believe it starts at 8 o'clock, 9:30, or I'm sorry, 8:39, something like that.
We get off a shift that morning. That's what I was asking. Maybe we can get most of our shift to come down. That'd be a
I'm off at 7, and then I'll be hustling over to Verona to help them over there that day. So
yeah, that's exactly what we'd be doing. So awesome. All right, that was personal that I wanted to know. So what else you got?
What else is going on? It's gonna be a cool year to train, at least in my opinion. You know, Sean Duffy coming over to Walworth that first weekend in March to do his thing over there, searchable versus survivable. Sawdust is coming up. Kudos to JD and his bunch for putting that together. The first year was really good. Proud of him. He's done a hell of a job putting that thing together. And that's something that our area needs. We've been kind of starving for stuff like that. And it blows my mind the number of people who don't attend it. I don't know what it is. I think it's a Wisconsin thing. Maybe I'm completely off base, but when we used to have the Badgerland Fire Conference down in Madison, I went there the last year that they had it, and there were people there from St. Paul. I was mixed up with a crew of guys from St. Paul. It was me and 3 guys from St. Paul, and we were doing all kinds of different evolutions out at MATC. There are people from all over the place. And I could count on my hand the number of people from Wisconsin that were there. I was shocked. And even from the immediate Dane County area, I was hanging out and talking with some guys from Stoughton. And it, just like there were a handful of them there. And then there was a Howie and the guys up from Reedsburg came down, and then some guys from Eau Claire. But I was just shocked at the lack of local people that came to this particular event. JD has done a really good job with his crew of creating this event. Last year was great for the first year putting it on. I think they hit it out of the park. I'm excited for some of the guys that they have coming. And again, it's affordable training, man.
Oh yeah,
it's affordable. You know, I know that he tried to get some hands-on stuff this year, but it didn't happen. It's fine, whatever. We got next year. But some of the people that he has coming in this year are going to be good. I'm interested to listen to what old Justin Fraze has to say, because he always is interesting to listen to talk. You know, usually starting by saying, "Hey, what I'm saying may hurt your feelings, but I don't care. So let's talk about it."
Yeah.
You know, going on, further. Of course, FDIC is coming up. I'm going down this year. I'll be there for Fool's Night. I didn't go last year. We're doing it this year. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Great Lakes Hot still got some openings. I've gone the past 2 years. If you're not making a trip over to outside of Detroit, you're missing out, man. Duffy's got some good things going on over there. I feel like it's flying under the radar. But They've expanded it to an extra day this year. I'm going again this year. We're forcing doors this year, so I'm looking forward to going over there and doing that. And then of course, really excited about firemanship. Coming down to Aurora. I know there's a lot of people that may not know the background behind firemanship, but and correct me if I'm wrong, but it started out Portland way out west, and for political reasons, and this is coming from Cody Trestrail, things just weren't working out, and there was that rebirth of firemanship in Aurora, and I'm like, oh my God, it's coming to Illinois. Sweet, I'm totally going to be there because I knew what was going on. And what really blew me away is how fast some of these classes sold out. I mean, I remember the day that things were, you were able to register. We were out doing inspections, and I went to my acting officer. I'm like, hey, listen, can you give me about 15 minutes? I got to register for some classes. And he's like, yeah, no problem. So I'm in the back of Engine 1 in Verona. I'm like, trying to get on, and every time I went to a class, it was sold. I'm like, no, going like that. And luckily, I had a list of classes. I'm like, okay, so I don't get this, I'm going to this. If I don't get that, I'm going to this. And I happened to get into one of the classes, and it was a big sigh of relief. And that, everything just filled up so fast. So this is going to be a pretty big deal. If you're not taking advantage of going down to do this, you're missing out, man. It's going to be cool.
Yeah, excited to get down there.
Yep.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for coming on. I mean, unless you got anything else to add in, I don't know, Brennan, you got anything to throw? That's above expectations. Thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate you taking the time to come in, sit with us for almost 2 hours and share some knowledge.
Yeah, it's been fun, guys. I love sitting down and talking shop, and it's fun to talk to like-minded guys. And if there's one thing that I can leave you guys, since we brought up about talking shop, there was a time when I felt like being into the job was looked down upon. Funny, I got the hat on. You guys got the hat on too, Copcat.
We all do. Yeah.
Greatness knows greatness, right? But that being said, there was a time when I kind of got the feeling that being into the job and being a nerd for the job, I guess, was frowned upon. And that I never felt like I should be ashamed, but I felt like an oddity. But as I progressed in my career and met more people like you guys, I was a little more at ease with being as eaten up with the job as I am. And I think there's a lot of people out there that need to realize that it's okay to give a shit. It's okay to be eaten up by the job, and there's a lot of people out there that are happy that we do give a shit, that we are eaten up by the job. They're very happy. I know one woman that lives in DeForest that's very happy that I get off the rig and I will run with a ladder, There are people that as odd as it seems, think it's a crime to be as into the job as we are. And it's okay. It's okay to love the job. It's okay to leave work and come home and think about the job a little bit. Don't get me wrong. We all need a break every now and then. Okay. We all need a break every now and then. That's cool. But it's okay to be into the job. It's okay to be good at what you do. It's okay to want to be really good at certain aspects of the job.
For sure. Be that 10%. Be someone you look up and be a mentor to those that so.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for coming on. You've seen some of the episodes, so you're probably aware of how we end each one. So I'll kick us off with our little inappropriate saying that our chief we had our Lieutenant W, his girlfriend made us stickers. I sent her a picture of our truck, and I had her make us stickers that says, "I just want to do truck shit with my friends." And we put that, we were posting that everywhere, and our chief came and he was looking at everything. He goes, "Can you guys make anything that doesn't have the word shit in it?" Like,
No.
like we've got we've got our "Don't be a shitbag" sticker on the fridge. He knows our podcast slogan. We've got all the stickers and everything there, and then we had that one. It was just so funny. It was like, nope, cheap. That's the word of the day. That's what it's got to
You know
be.
what? And I wouldn't say it's a problem with it, but I will say this. I have a tendency to use language enhancers. How does that sound from time to time? And there are times when I teach where I give them fair warning. I'm like, hey guys, listen, here's the deal. We're all adults here, right? You know, you're going to hear me drop a naughty word every now and then. You know, Mikey Torres, if you're familiar with him, he'll drop a F-bomb every now and then. Bobby Eckert will drop one every now and then.
I was Bobby Eckert.
I was gonna say Mikey at Wichita. I love his. I use "fuck" as a punctuation mark. I was like, perfect, perfect.
This podcast is even better.
Yeah, and you know those guys. You know those guys. You know they're speaking from the heart. Yep. You know, and when you're among people like that, you can. Yeah, my chief has talked to me a couple of times. We did training. We had people. We had citizens watching, and chief comes over to me and he goes, "Hey, listen, man. Watch your language. We got people around. I'm like, yeah, I understand, Chief. I totally get that. Decorum, trust me, gentlemen, decorum it's up here, okay? But I know my audience, and we should all know our audience. Yep. You know, don't drop F-bombs at Pub Ed, okay? When you go see the middle schoolers, you know, don't be dropping F-bombs and stuff like that, you know. But sometimes when we get a little bit worked up, you know, our passion shines through, and sometimes not the best possible ways, but as long as they understand what we're telling them, you're good. And I get it. It's all good.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Well said. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you, BJ, for coming on. And yeah, as always, don't be a shitbag.
Don't be a shitbag.
Don't be a shitbag.